You may call them the Royal Fab Four: the Prince of Wales, the Duchess of Cornwall, and the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Each one of them has their unique personality traits and skills that they bring to keep the monarchy in high regard. And you'll be surprised by how important is Catherine in that strategy. And how do I know it? Because she used 3 body language tactics at this event that prove that she is the one keeping the royal family's image both fresh and powerful. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. I'm going to do an experiment so you can see a very interesting detail. You know that the appearance of Her Majesty the Queen at COP26 in the form of a video made headlines around the world, right? But it's important to keep in mind that it was during the evening reception on the first day of the event. Now, if you do a search of that event, and many people will too, because they wanted to know more about the Queen's words, you will notice a pattern. In Google image results, as well as every outlet that talk about the event, you see that there are 2 high contrast, very saturated colors that come from the Queen's green dress, that I already discussed in my video analysis of her speech, and Catherine's blue dress. This was on purpose to create a coordinated impact between what we could call the Queen's generation and many years of service, and Catherine, that is the embodiment of this fresh generation, the actual dawn of the next step of the monarchy. Of course, Prince Charles is the heir to the throne, but we have enough polls that tells us that people just love William and Catherine. And any public relations firm worth its salt would know that if you want younger generations to identify themselves with the royal family's service, you need a young personal brand to do that. And this has become a major concern for the royal family. Maybe not because the attacks of some figures, including ex-members, so to speak, but because any kind of work always needs awareness. You always need to be noticed. You need to be in those headlines. Everyone knows that Catherine is going to be noticed, whether she wants it or not. It's something natural, so she must be quite careful with the image she projects. And she's got the responsibility of a very delicate line between being in the spotlight, but at the same time not in the personal way, but part of a family. But that blue dress that night was the first powerful shot because she's making sure to complement the Queen's green dress. And if we're talking about climate, it makes sense that if you're going to stand out using high contrast colors, just make sure it's green and blue. Yeah, pretty much like the classic Windows wallpaper. And when I say that Catherine was calling all attention to herself, it's not an understatement. Even in pictures where it's next to impossible to identify people by their faces, you can spot her right in the middle. She being in the middle of that group is quite interesting in itself because group dynamics tend to form around the most important or popular people. You might remember from school or from college that every time you saw a group of people, the ones with higher rank or more popular or simply the ones with a magnetic personality were the ones in the middle. So navigating the middle of so many people of power requires a lot of self-confidence. Again, that blue dress helps a lot because it draws a lot of attention just for the sake of contrast with everyone else. But how do you strike a balance between calling all attention to yourself and being part of a team? Because if you break that balance, then you can be seen as narcissistic, something that you don't want and something that certainly Catherine doesn't want either. She does this by using a very conservative body language, and this is part of protocol and training. Being part of the royal family, you already know how you should behave in this kind of situations. But in this case, it's even more important because she knows that she's going to be photographed many times. That's why there are 2 pictures that I liked a lot. This one where she's openly smiling and offering William a petri dish of dead larvae, something that's not very appealing, but still, we already know that Kate has a great sense of humor. So even in those situations, she knows how to behave naturally as a human being. And I can tell you from experience that keeping that for hours, knowing that you'll be on every newspaper the morning after, well, that requires a lot of practice. But I told you about 2 pictures. This is the other picture that I found really interesting. And this is a more candid photo of her where she's not smiling and she's not in the middle of the group at that moment. I haven't made up my mind about the emotion of her facial expression. What do you see? I would love to read your thoughts in the comments. Of course, to navigate these circles of power, you still need solid body language chops. And I'm going to mention briefly that photo of Joe Biden's hand on William's shoulder. That gesture is usually one of power. It's a bit more subtle and friendly when it's done to the side of your arm, but if it's over the shoulder, the other person is signaling some kind of power over you. In this case, Biden is also showing a full eyebrow raise, and we can see almost a full smile, so he's trying to be friendly at the same time. And by the way, he's not putting his full hand over William's shoulder, but just the fingers. That's also important to notice. But these dynamics are going to happen in a split second, and you will not have time to react if you don't have enough practice. In this case, William is doing a very subtle head tilting to the opposite side, and he's smiling at the same time. So that happens a lot when two people's faces are giving a message, but their bodies tell another. And we're much more used to lie, so to speak, with our faces than with our bodies. So remember to pay more attention to people's bodies than their faces. Only make sure you're discreet while doing that. By the way, you can refine your observation skills with my 100 body language tips that you can download right in the description of this video. And Catherine manages to show all the body language signals needed to build empathy with those around her. One great example is that subtle head tilt. That looks a lot like William's head tilt that we just saw, but in this case, it means that she's actually paying attention to the person talking. Also, this series of photographs with Justin Trudeau helps a lot to picture the way she interacts with people. That head tilt, she looks directly into Trudeau's eyes and even uses a kiss as a greeting. So even with all these rules and the protocol of royal body language, Catherine manages to build empathy with people, like using her hands to express an emotion to reinforce what she's saying, but at the same time she keeps her elbows close to her body. Again, there's a lot of effort in knowing how to conduct yourself in these kind of situations, and make sure that your body language is always saying what you want it to say. Catherine's brand image is not a personal one. It's indeed part of this teamwork that the Royal Fab Four is pushing to bring awareness to their initiatives, that are more than a few. But the hard part is that at the same time she cannot afford to lose her own humanity, because paradoxically, it's her personality that makes her unique. And it also makes her a very special member of the royal family. My suggestion is that you try to spot the difference between the royal engagements and the more personal ones when she's with William. That will help you get a good sense of that balance between being warm and at the same time being part of the next generation of the British monarchy. If you want to support my channel and help me make more videos, all you have to do is like, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas and I'll see you soon, my body language buddies.